To be clear, these realities mean that we must reduce our dependence on the U.S. in order to protect our sovereignty and our economy. But we must do so also clearly understanding that by all the critical measures of international relations, America will still remain our principal partner in the world. Our national conversation must be mature enough to acknowledge that many of the difficulties we now face as a country cannot be blamed on Donald Trump. In too many cases, they stem from bad decisions by our own government.
Canada has to rapidly reduce reliance on the U.S., though many of our country's challenges can't be blamed on President Trump. That's the message former Prime Minister Stephen Harper delivered in front of a big crowd of Conservatives last night at a gala dinner marking the 20th anniversary of when he became Prime Minister. The world has changed a lot in the last two decades, rather. So how has politics in Canada evolved over that period? We thought it was a good opportunity to discuss with the front bench. Christy Clark, Marco Mendicino, James Moore, and Monty Solberg are all back. James, I'll start with you because, as I mentioned, you were here a few days ago. You were there for the portrait unveiling. Lots of interesting, speeches this week from former Prime Minister Harper as well as Prime Minister Carney. Like a lot of nice Canadian moments, actually, over the past few days. What do you take away from it? And what were you doing 20 years ago?
Sitting in the front row with Monty Solberg laughing at the state of affairs of the country, probably. I have fond memories of that. But to be honest, 20 years ago, I was honored to be part of Prime Minister Harper's government and cabinet. And I think the clip that you showed there of Stephen Harper reminds me of the virtues that he has always had as a leader. That, Preston Manning used to say there's two kinds of people in politics, those who want to be something and those who want to do something. And I always felt that was something that needed to be a shining sort of commitment of people who aspire to high office and the opportunity to be Prime Minister of the country. I see you showing pictures of me right now. The ravages of time are coming to mind, but not
at all, not at all.
Yeah, no, but I think the clip that you showed there of Stephen Harper, I think is what I take away a lot about his time as Prime Minister. Control what you can control and try to make it better. Prepare for the things that you can control and try to have the proper defenses around you. Keep your eye on the horizon. Know that circumstances may change, and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who have good character, who have sound judgment, and work collaboratively as best you can, and know that the unexpected may hit you on a broadside, and the country will survive it as long as you are studious about your work, thoughtful about your commitment, and you, again, surround yourself with people of character and substance, and the country will endure. And Stephen Harper, I think, did that, and I hope the Prime Minister Carney is learning those lessons, and I trust that he is.
Monty, you were getting sworn in as immigration minister, if I read the information correctly that my producer put together. A little bit from your perspective on, oh my gosh, look at that picture. You're with the Dalai Lama. On what that period was like for you, and how you think things have changed since then.
Well, it was extraordinarily exciting, and it was just the greatest honor I've ever had in my life. It was just so damn exciting. There's no other way to put it, and it was pretty bracing too. Walking into, your department for the first time, they hand you briefing books that it would reach the ceiling. There were so many of them, and then having to wrap your mind around a file that spends $5 billion a year and lands 300,000 Canadian people into Canada, and making sure the good ones get in and the bad ones stay out. It was really a challenging time, and I would say, just to follow up on what James said, the thing that struck me about the Prime Minister was he put the importance of the economy came first, because we couldn't do anything else unless we had a strong fiscal position. And he just made that job. One, it allowed us to come out of the 2008 recession in the best shape of any G7 country. We balanced the budget, we cut taxes. I mean, what he did, and he deserves so much credit because he really steered the ship. What he did was extraordinary. And almost, the idea that a balanced budget should be an extraordinary thing is crazy, but it really should be the norm. And, I hope Prime Minister Carney does learn from Stephen Harper. They know each other well. In many ways, I think they probably think alike on a number of issues, not everything. But I hope he picks up those lessons and runs with them.
Well, they had a lot of nice things to say about each other this week. It was a nice thing to watch at the portrait unveiling. Christy, what were you doing 20 years ago? And I'm going to ask the same thing. How do you think politics has changed?
20 years ago, I was Deputy Premier, Minister of Education in Gordon Campbell's government. And then I quit. I had a little 2-year-old. And then not long after, I went and started the Christy Clark Show on CKNW Radio. It was a call-in radio show, which I loved doing. I mean, you got experience at doing that too.
So fun.
It was, yeah, it was, I mean, I loved, it was fun back in those, oh God, there I am.
You look so nice, so sweet, yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. You know, I look at the pictures and I think, how fat was I? And there, so then I went and I ran for, then I went and ran for mayor.
You look great.
Thank you. And I lost the nomination by 60 votes to the guy who eventually became mayor. So, yeah, that was 20 years ago. How do I think it's changed? I think that for women in particular, it's become really, really brutal because social media has just made it impossible for women to feel comfortable in the realm. And the feedback that we get about how fat we are, how wrinkled we are, the color of our hair, the way we walk, the sound of our voice, it's like, it's just so painful. And I spend a lot of time trying to talk women into getting into politics so we can continue to change it. But most of them now, it's getting harder and harder to do it. So I would say from a female, you know, the gents have pointed out lots of things that I agree with, but boy, from a women's perspective, it's really gotten a lot harder.
I'm glad you brought that up. Feels like a different world from a social media perspective.
It does. Like you walk around with your phone and you go on TV and people are just, you're dumb, you're fat, you're ugly.
Well, you're none of those things. Nobody is, but online isn't real, but it does exist. Okay, I saved you for last, Marco, because you were basically a baby. You actually have a baby in your arms. You weren't yet in politics, right?
No, I was not. No, I was not. In fact, all of my friends on this panel were in politics in one role or another. And that picture that's up right there, that's me. Dad, prosecutor by day, dad by night, all night long. You know, the bleak eyes there are me trying to juggle the writing of factums and getting ready for trials and also changing diapers and doing whatever I could to support Diana, my wife, and Michaela, who's in my arms there. She's an adult now, so that certainly has changed. But yeah, I was, you know, it's funny. I was quite starstruck by politicians 20 years ago, and I think many of the clips that you showed there probably planted some seeds subconsciously, because I think, you know, jumping into politics, and it is hard. I agree with everything that my colleagues have said, especially Christy. It's become a lot more polarizing and difficult. But I think that's why this week, and having Prime Minister Carney do the unveiling of the portrait with Stephen Harper was so important. And, you know, I had the great privilege and honor to be present for some of those early discussions between Prime Minister Mark Carney just after he was sworn in, and some of the conversations that he had with Prime Minister Stephen Harper. And there is a lot of respect there. And that integrity, I think, really shone through this week, because at this fragile moment, I do think Canadians really need to come together. And, you know, I was thinking about some of the shining examples of unity among Canadians over the last 20 years, whether it's in sports, in the Olympics. Christy, you'll remember the 2010, well, actually, James, you too, the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, or when we have, you know, national emergencies and crises. You know, Canadians, we contribute to the Red Cross. We tend to look after each other. Or right now, in the midst of the rupture moment, as the Prime Minister has described it, it's really important, I think, to see politicians and elected leaders come together, because Canadians really, I think, are expecting that and need that unity right now. And kudos to Stephen Harper and to Mark Carney, I think, for demonstrating the best qualities of that kind of solidarity at this moment.
Yeah, not a bad
And Prime Minister Chrétien.
Thanks, everybody.
And Chrétien, too. Yeah, Mr. C.
Prime Minister
Chrétien.
Cannot forget Mr. C. That's right.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Our front bench, Christy Clark, Marco Medicino, James Moore, and Monty Silver.